everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, better. Oh, better. Oh, better. Oh, better, better. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. You ready, Jim?
We're ready.
Here we go. Welcome to ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm ReneMarie, and what a phenomenal first show we had with Michael and Yonel, and of course Judy, who always does phenomenal work. And like I say, in every single show, this show wouldn't be what it is without Judy, because she does really a lot of back end work and preparation for it. So thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you.
So, you know, this is something, well, before we get to the show theme, I'm going to and let Judy read it. I want to talk about this June 9th talent night we're having. And Jim, can you show the photos on the screen again? We're doing Diane Bromberg from the, I forget what the name of her, I know it's the
Senior resource.
Yes, see, I just want to make sure I have it correct. The Senior Resource Group of New Jersey. She is the founder of that, and her and I knew each other many, many years ago. But Denise just reconnected us, and she wanted to work with somebody that did productions and stuff, and she wanted music, and we're working on this talent night, and it is phenomenal. What we have and who we have. We have jazz, we have duets, we have Karen, my background singer, who is a phenomenal vocalist herself. She's going to be singing. We have so many people, and you'll see it on the screen that Jim's doing. Also, we just booked the comedian for it, which is really wonderful. Laughter is such a great healing tool. And actually, the mayor of Wayne, New Jersey, is going to be opening up the show. So we really have growing and growing and growing, and it is a phenomenal thing. And like I said, say all the time, like with Jerry Lewis and his telethon, we really believe that that's a way to tap into people and really help them understand what life is about and how vibrant and exciting life is. But there are some stuff you need to learn in life because you want to prepare and have that tool belt, as we spoke in the first show, set up and ready for the what ifs in life. So really is important. So we're doing this on June 9th at the Wayne YMCA. It's going to be incredible. So please, if you can join us, we're going to be Jim's going to be streaming it live, so you'll be able to tap in. So we're really excited about it. So thank you to Diane for all the work you're doing. She is incredible. She really is pushing to have a lot of people come, and there's 450 seats in the theater. We are asking or strongly recommending that people wear their masks, because since the COVID cases are rising, we don't want to be a super spreader for it. We want to make sure that everybody stays healthy, especially since we know now the guidelines to stay healthy, and that is to wear a mask when you're in an enclosed area and keep social distancing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is an important tool for us to use. But so back to the show, and thank you to everyone. This is I just found out in the Zoom green room, as I always call it, how important this show is, because this is something everybody that follows me has really been learning. I've been trying to understand and figure out like how we could get our stroke family, because I suffered a stroke, well, if you didn't know, to cognizant, like Michael said in the first show, to understand what it takes to recover. And Sharon helped Monza do just that. And this show is very important to me. And then Jim, and Michael joined us on the first show. So thank you for coming back, Michael, and staying the 2 hours. We really appreciate it. Michael had a wonderful story about his high blood pressure. He brought to light the fact that you really should see a specialist for high blood pressure if you continue to have high blood pressure. So Michael's story will share a little bit more about that in this show as well. And then Jim is a sports athlete like myself. And we'll talk about these sports and how it helped me and Jim to recover from a stroke, and how blessed we are. And Monza and Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. And so I always let Judy share her press, because it kind of leads the way into the show. So go ahead, Judy.
Welcome all. As a senior vice president of merchandise with a 42-year career in the retail industry, 15 of those in high stress positions of senior executive roles, Michael Irwin decided to have some fun working for a local Triumph and Harley Davidson motorcycle dealership. Michael was having the time of his life for 7 months, till the morning of September 2017, when he suffered a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke to his brain, a brain bleed, and slurring of his speech. Rushed to the UNC REX Hospital in Raleigh, Virginia, his wife Jennifer was by his side to talk with the doctors, who told her that this type of stroke usually has grim outcomes. Michael Irwin will share with our audience the 3 miracles of his stroke. 1, that he lived. 2nd, that when his blood pressure was out of control after the bleed in his brain reached dangerous levels, a blood pressure specialist was able to diagnose the problem immediately, adjusted his medication, and saved him at a crucial moment. His blood pressure has been normal ever since. The 3rd miracle, 8 months post-stroke, answered his burning question about what is his life going to look like now. And he had a vivid dream about opening a nonprofit organization to help stroke survivors. And he did it. In 2019, together with his wife, Jennifer, they opened the nonprofit Believe Stroke Recovery Foundation. Jim Patterson, a lifelong athlete who played football in high school and later golf and tennis, knew firsthand that a player's mental game has to be as good as their technical game. His hemorrhagic stroke proved to be a formidable opponent that forced him to level up his mental game in ways he never expected. Jim's hemorrhagic stroke occurred on the golf course during a golf tournament in Reedport, Oregon in 2020. Rushed to the nearest hospital, he received a CAT scan and an MRI, which revealed a blood clot sitting behind Jim's right optic nerve. He received a TPA, a clot-busting drug, and was flown to Sacred Heart Hospital in Eugene, Oregon, where a neurologist performed a thrombectomy. His doctors believed his stroke, which paralyzed his left side and took the sight from his right eye, was brought on by a trivial fibrillation in combination with sleep apnea, high blood pressure, and pre-diabetics. He was 58 at the time. Jim will discuss his challenges, long road of recovery, both physically and mentally, with physical, occupational, speech therapy, and mental health recovery, with a psychologist who restored his will to recover. His wife, Valerie, gave him complete support and love through all stages he went through. Meanwhile, God revealed his new purpose in life was to be involved in a nonprofit, Stroke Awareness Oregon. With a long-time career as an executive leader with an extensive network, Jim is poised to help raise funds and promote its mission to the corporate world. He wants to help others, survivors, understand the challenges of stroke warriors in the workplace. He stresses the necessity of showing stroke colleagues the extra measures of grace. When other stroke warriors ask for advice, Jim tells them to celebrate every small victory and make sure you do it with other people. Monza Naff, at the age of 67, while living in Sun River, Oregon, survived a stroke that damaged the part of her brain responsible for language. Monza had been a wordsmith all her life, a professor of literature, a Shakespearean scholar, and a poet. Now almost everything was nameless. Words that were her whole life were gone. Monza suffered from severe aphasia. She would have to relearn the entire vocabulary of everyday life, which she did with her loving partner, Sharon. After 2 weeks in the hospital, Monza returned home and met with Brittany, a speech therapist she would work with for the next 2 years. At home, Sharon helped Monza by using flashcards of household items, drilled her on it for 8 months till she mastered all 50. Sharon helped her name colors, name of animals, numbers, and pictures. She would look at a picture of a glass of ice water and be able in time to say all three: water, glass, ice. So the message here is never give up hope. Thank you all and welcome.
Jim, never give up hope. Just thought I'd let everybody know. That was a perfect timing for that. I was communicating with Jim in the technical back in the Long Island, and that was a perfect saying. Never give up hope. Never give up hope. I have so many questions for everybody because this is such this show is so important to me and really touches, a lot on how I, my life, my story. So I don't know who to start with first. So let's start with the how your stroke stories first. Sharon or Monza, who wants to tell Monza's story about her stroke? Can you do that for us, Sharon?
Well, what Monza and I did was we divided it. One of the things Monza said that she would like to do, which I think is a great idea, is that when she had the aphasia, she was doing it without my knowledge when she was writing to friends on Facebook. And at first she was like putting in numbers and letters, and people thought the machine was doing the problem. But I kept a record of all the aphasia words she used. And one of the things we thought might be helpful to people is if Monza could share some of what was going on and a little bit to show how she progressed through the worst of the aphasia by just telling some of those stories. And then I have 3 different points that I think are most vital in the work that I did with her that helped her get through it. So would that be okay to start with her and then go to me?
Whatever you guys want. Monza, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'd like to share some of the details of my experience with aphasia because I think it will be helpful to people who have it to know how their partners can help them, and also just that they're not the only ones. who have this happen. I was conscious when I was taken to the hospital, but Sharon told me later that when I woke up at the hospital, they asked me if I knew where I was, and I said I was in the library. And whether that was the old English professor, knowing where she was or not, I don't know. But I had seen the files, and so I knew I was in a library. I didn't know my name. I couldn't name my nose or my elbow, my teacup, or the windows in the room. Almost everything I looked at was nameless. I couldn't think of it. And having been an English professor for so many years, that was terrifying. I said words that were just random letters put together, but I didn't know they were real words. While I was in the rehab center, I kept asking Sharon for my Victrola, get my Victrola. And she wouldn't get it. And I was just furious when she wouldn't get it for me. And I kept telling her she wasn't listening. She finally figured out that I wanted my cell phone, but I was calling it my Victrola. I was sure that that was what it was. I asked for Ostomosa when I wanted soap. I called a radio, a wrister, a lister, and a twister. Not a radio, but what it was. And a teapot was a tweezer, and a razor, a stazer, and a screwdriver, a lollidos. I couldn't figure out what a flashlight was because the name didn't say anything about put a finger on your mover and the light comes on. I couldn't figure that out. I was trying to figure out flowers in a flower pot, and I said they were free Pinot Grigio, and I have no idea how that all got together. I said I asked for dead carrion once when I wanted a candy bar. Now, then I also asked Sharon one time, do you think we should cook the Canadians? And thank goodness my Canadian friends thought that was just funny. They had a good sense of humor. But the part that surprised me was when Sharon had gained all the words back from people who had received notes from me. To one person, I had sent a birthday card and I said, happy birthday, happy-go-lucky, even more than the Banther pill. Now, I don't know, as many years as I've spent being an English professor, I don't know what a Banther pill is.
Is that what you wrote? Is that what you wrote, or that's what you said?
And that was actually one of the turning points where she started to bring in real English, real words. But prior to that, she not only she'd get mad at me because she insisted that what she was saying were real words. There was no way for her to know that they weren't.
But you know what I think is very interesting is I've heard people, saying words that are not cognizant to other people, but I never knew that somebody would translate those into writing as well. So that's very powerful stuff that not only were you, that's exactly what you were thinking, because you were writing what you were thinking. You weren't thinking of, the right word. You were actually thinking that this word was supposed to be this, and you were writing that down. I think that's very powerful stuff. So go ahead.
That's an incredibly wonderful point. I hadn't even thought about that, but yes, she was writing out the spelling.
Yeah, think about it. I never heard somebody go to that extent to that. So I think it's very interesting.
The messages kept getting clearer, but they were still elusive because one such metaphor became another step in my healing because it was such a clear metaphor for the struggle that was going on in my mind about how to bring my words together in a logical sequence. I said to a woman who had posted a mystical photo of a woman in flight on Facebook, And what I said to her was, love that fearless energy. Feels my being flies so free, trying so hard to fly to each meaning in the languid meeting of words. My head aches from flying. And I was just saying what I was feeling, and that's what it came out. Um, of course, there were terrifying times when I couldn't remember Sharon's name. And so I called to her in the other room, Cher, come here. And she came right away and crying out in despair. I said, what's your name? What's your name? I can't say your name. I couldn't think of it. I couldn't say it. I couldn't figure it out. And she said, this was months after I was home, but was still very traumatized. I had a very hard time thinking of names, and I didn't even know it. I had always been someone who remembered everybody's name in my class, everybody's name in my dad's congregation. I never forgot names. I had forgotten her name. And she had to hold me while I sobbed for an hour because I couldn't remember her name.
That's very powerful stuff because, you know, we always go because mentally, Sharon will acknowledge this, mentally it puts a stress on you and it doesn't allow you to be clear and open to work through the situation, work through not being able to you know, focus or to remember, because sometimes people get more anxious and that slows down the recovery process to be able to understand that. That's very interesting. So Sharon, how did you help her?
So one of the things I wanted to say about that is that although the trauma was enhanced by not being able to remember my name, it also allowed her to release some of the grief and pain, which I think is also really crucial to the healing. And a lot of times people just, you know, hold that in.
But Sharon, this is something that you and I can have a conversation about forever, because do they know they're holding it in, or they just, with me, I'll talk about me when I had my stroke. I was afraid. I had this fear in me of what will happen again. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just felt this fear. So is it the fear that holds us back from feeling everything?
I think there's the fear and you know, when you're trying to keep going, you're trying to shove the fear out, then sometimes the grief doesn't come out. But I also think that one of the other things that Monza talked to me about saying to you was that um, there's a loss of identity. I mean, I think, and just even some of the things that you were talking about earlier before we got started, there's that loss of identity. It comes out as fear. It comes out as anger. For Monza, losing words was both fear and anger. But there's a turning in. I think there's a turning inward. It's like you're in a prison. Were you going to say something, Jim?
When you're done.
Oh.
Sure.
So that struggle, it's almost like, how do I mean, I've heard several of you today say it already, how do I reinvent myself? But I think that a wall kind of goes up even with the people you love, because there's, and I shouldn't speak for everyone, but that struggle and that just overpower, that sense of complete loss of control over your life, and the anger and the fear, I think they all play together. And I think being able to have times when that grief is released, the power of it is that it helps the person with the stroke to reconnect with the people that love them, because and that's one of the things I'll talk about. But sometimes even the people who are trying to help us, if we're the stroke patient, it can turn to conflict and some kinds of alienation sometimes. I don't know if did I answer your question well enough.
Yes, you did. You did. Jim, what did you want to chime into that? And then I'll let Michael chime in. So
Well,
they
I
can
just
move on.
wanted to share that in my case, I went about communicating what I was feeling by sharing to people I was grieving the loss of my former self.
Mhm.
There was so much of me that I recognized might be different or gone completely. When Monza was talking about she was a person who never forgot names, I was in college athletic fundraising, and one of the things I prided myself on was I would remember a face and a name. That became more challenging for me. And the more challenging those kinds of things became, the more I found myself in that depressed state. And I realized that I wasn't done grieving the loss of my former self. And then until I got to the point where I could get past that, I knew that mentally that was going to hold me back from getting better. So I had to really do self-reflection and check my pride, be honest with myself that yes, I am grieving the loss of my former self as if I had lost my grandmother. The feeling was the same. It was even more intense because it was more personal.
Jim, can I hop in there for 1 second? Because if I don't capture the moment, I won't. So what I've learned through my 30 plus years of stroke recovery is that what I would like to acknowledge to all the stroke patients and the aphasia is every day there's change in life. Every day there's a new pattern. People get divorced, someone passes, we have a health issue, change in jobs. And, why I'm saying this is because we're all one, we're all alike. And because this type of situation doesn't define us in who we are. So I think that's how I started to acknowledge, that yes, I'm not the same, but I won't be the same as I grow and I mature and I do everything else. We just have to acknowledge it and accept it and move on. So go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I've gone from grieving the loss of my former self to anticipating with excitement who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
At the end of the journey.
Yeah.
And
Aaron,
doing
go
that
ahead.
has really helped.
I just want to say, Jim, that I think what you did is really incredible, and it really shows a deep level of just consciousness that you could get that awareness and that you could do that. Monza wrote a poem that I think fits right here. It was the only poem we brought. It's quite short. Would you like her to read it?
Yep. And then we'll have Michael chime in. Go ahead, Monza.
Oh, Michael, go first. That's fine.
No.
Oh, no,
If it
please.
captures the moment, let's go with Monza, and then we'll have Michael chime in.
Passion. Passion is the pulse of the willow's breath you watch, beyond the green paint of hospital walls. The force in the hurricane of lies you tell yourself to stay aloft in dead air. The ferocity in your face when you take your first steps after the stroke. The staying power of brave ink, however shaky, on white paper, when the idea of word is still beyond all thought.
Right. That's wonderful. And you know what I love about you, Monza, is your poetry. It not only comes out in your words, but it comes out in how you share it and how you speak about it. And your soft tone really is very powerful. Most people would think when they're loud and they do this and that, but people are really in tune with you because of who you are and how you present yourself. And I didn't know you before your stroke, but I admire who you are today because, that's wonderful. I admire all of you. So thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful.
one last sentence is, believe it or not, this is the most bizarre thing. Monza wrote that stroke exactly 10 years before she had her stroke. I mean, she
Wow.
wrote that poem.
Wow.
Wow.
She wrote that poem 10 years before she had that stroke.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah,
And is it published anywhere? Is it?
yes, it's published in one little book, but it's
Monza, I'm not, no, I don't think this is. I think we found this poem later among your poems, but Monza does have a beautiful book of poetry called Healing the Woman Heart on, claiming the legacy of our lives, exposing the illusions and healing the heart. And it has poems about illness, because she also was struck with a chronic fatigue, CFIDs, about 30 years ago. And so, there's poems about illness and lots of other things. And we can send, we can text you this if you guys would like to have this.
Yeah, I
poem.
would like that because I would like to cut the production here and just have people be able to see that that poem so that they can really
Definitely.
focus in on that. So yeah, and I'll clip it a little bit too. So that's very powerful words. Thank you. So Michael, talk to us because you in the prior show you talked about cognizance and stuff.
Well, you know, no two strokes are alike.
Nope.
And when they're telling us that, we're like, whatever, we don't believe that. But it's true. You know, like Jim was talking about finding his or grieving his former self. You know, I consider myself fortunate that I woke up and I was giving God things that I was giving a second chance. I mean, to be with family, to be with friends. My grandson was a year old. You know, I felt very fortunate. And even today, which has been 4.5 years, if anything creeps into my mind to possibly upset me, I still remember that. And I usually perk up and smile right after I say that. But a little bit on what Monza and Sharon are saying. You know, I went through, as I said, a little bit of aphasia as well. You know, when I came, my first 30, 60 days in the hospital, I was using what I call $10 words. And my wife was having to get a dictionary. Even my speech therapist was like, I'm not sure that's a word. And she would look it up and she go, sure enough, it's before my time, but it's a word. So I just, I was going back to college days. But the strange thing was, I couldn't get out a single simple word. I mean, I went for almost 3 months and couldn't, as I talked about, I had 100 antonyms, a sheet of paper with 100 antonyms and 100 synonyms. And I wasn't even close to being able to tell you what they were. I couldn't even, as simple as go, I couldn't tell you stop. And one Saturday morning, my in home speech therapist had been working with me, and she was really wonderful. She worked with me playing cards, spades, backgammon, fantasy football. She did everything that she just relaxed me and played. And one morning, I think it was a Saturday, I was supposed to have this homework done for synonyms and antonyms. And I got up and I finished them in about 5 minutes each. And my wife had a tear in her eye, and I said, what's up? And she said, do you realize you just did that? And ever since then, I've had all my memories, all my cognitive functions, everything came back. The aphasia took a while. My wife pretty much finished my sentences for over a year, but eventually I got all of my language and I got it all back. But I guess since I've already spoken, I got Jim here. One of the things I'd like to talk about is I've got the Believe Stroke Recovery Foundation here, and Jim is a part of Stroke Awareness Oregon. And we always have had a little bit of a friendly competition. And so last weekend, we had Step Out with Stroke Warriors in Raleigh. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to, Judy, but it's Raleigh, North Carolina, not Raleigh, Virginia.
Oh,
But anyway, and to get exact, we were in Wake Forest. But we were real excited. I mean, we had about 33 exhibitors at a park here in Wake Forest. And we had some major hospitals, some major outpatient care. We had some great support groups. We had a lot of wellness for for the stroke survivors, the adaptive equipment, the nonprofit sports. We had 33 vendors, so
that's great.
I was real excited, and we had a lot of people, and we had it from on a Saturday from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and we had a DJ and lunch, and we had a bunch of games, and the stroke survivors had a wonderful time, and they met a lot of people that were an extreme resource for their self-independence. So we were very happy about the results, and we hope to have it next year. And I'll let Jim tell you about what they did out in Oregon. But good things are happening, and
Yes.
We're very much blessed.
Because of good people like you, it's happening. Judy, I know you wanted to say something.
Yes. When I was reading the press for Monza, the second page of my copy was missing, and I definitely want to add this. Monza's first stroke had to do with aphasia. However, in October of 2020, Monza suffered a second stroke that left her speech intact, but impaired her balance and coordination and made it difficult for her to swallow and weaken her right arm, hand, and leg. Having survived not one, but 2 strokes, Monza believes that whatever the limitations a stroke imposes, you can still see the things, hear the things, say the things, enjoy the things that mean the most to you. You can grow beyond those limitations in unexpected ways. What you learn becomes a bridge to others. And her message is, don't lose heart. And I apologize for leaving that part out originally, but I wanted to make sure I got it in before we concluded.
Don't lose heart is a great philosophy. It's perfect. It's perfect. So Jim, you wanted to tie into what Michael was talking about?
Yeah, in celebration of May being stroke.
I like that celebration.
Yeah.
That's why I called my book Stroke of Luck, because it was a stroke of luck. Go ahead.
Well, we hosted one of our first ever luncheons in Bend, Oregon. And I'm excited to share with Michael. We had close to 200 people in attendance.
Oh, wow. That's great.
That's amazing.
It was fantastic. We were able to use it as an outreach to individuals to help share our message about stroke awareness, and also make an appeal to community members to help support us financially so that we can help spread our mission, our vision, and our values. So there are a lot of really good things happening when good people step out in faith with courage of their convictions
Yeah.
and a focus on helping and serving others. Wonderful things can happen.
Yeah, yep, and you're all like an example of that. You're in the fact that we're all coming together to talk about it when there's power in numbers. When people come together, and so thank you so much. So I want to focus on the sports, but I also want to focus on how you navigated through this, right? I know that I'm assuming that Sharon and Monza use poetry and her life, her gifts in life. That's how she got through it. Michael, I know Jim got through with the sports, but let's talk to Michael. How did you get through it? And then we'll touch base with Sharon and Monza and Jim. What was it that, like Jim, I said before, I don't know if it was in the Zoom green room or on the show, whatever, but everybody knows that softball is one of my first 40 years, my passion. I lived it. I breathed it. I give my life for it. I dedicated my life to it. And that was really one of the practices that helped me to recover, because I use those tools, those tools in how to recover. Unknowing initially, but then as I started to understand and become more cognizant about it, it was what helped me. So what helped you, Michael?
Well, I'm kind of like Jim. I don't talk about it that much, but I have been playing sports ever since I was 5 years old, I guess. And you know, I just knew. They told me they didn't think I could walk. They told me you didn't think I was going to talk. And anyway, I am walking and talking. I still have a lot of challenges with my arm, but I even today I like to ride the recumbent bike. I ride the bike nearly 10 miles in 1 hour. Um, and I do that every other day, if not more. And I think the elliptical. And so I struggle a little bit making sure my foot stays on the elliptical. But, I just don't know what quit means. I assume that I am going to be better. It's been over 4 years and I just never give up.
I know you'll understand this, but what I'm known for is being to say no is not in my vocabulary word.
Absolutely.
No is not in my vocabulary word. So don't even bring it to me. So yes.
Yeah. So I have approached walking and talking in my arm ever since the same way I do everything in life. And I assume that I am not going to fail. And so that is my story.
Good. So what I captured from one of the things you said was that it's sad that they give you a diagnosis like that, right?
Yes.
They really,
Yes,
I mean, they should give us the medical information. That is, I mean, it's their job to give us that. But to tell us that we're not going to be able to walk or talk doesn't give you hope. Your
Yes.
hope is so important. Hope
It
is
is.
so important.
I went for 7 months, I guess, and I really couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, and my wife found uh, um, a rehab known as Steps for Recovery, in which we fund a lot of people to go there now. But I'll never forget, I went in there in a wheelchair, and the therapist looked at me and she said, "If you will listen to what I say, I promise you, you will walk around this building." I thought, wow, that's
Amen.
a
Amen.
and
Amen. Amen.
I did it, and I can't believe that she promised that, but she did, and I did.
That was wonderful. So I'm gonna let Sharon and Monza go next because Jim, I want to talk to you about the softball and about the sports. That's where I know your focus is. So Sharon and Monza, so Sharon, how did you I mean, I know it probably um, helped that you were partners, that you understood her already. So it was really a gift that that's someone that you love and someone that it lives with you and understands your inner makings.
Yes.
Because that really, because if you get another client, you really have to you have to really have to navigate through understanding them as a person. But you had the insight into that already. So how did you tap into that with her?
Well, we had already been together 21 years when she had her stroke. In fact, we just had our 37th anniversary.
Wow.
And yes, when you talked about using poetry and things, I do think we did some of that. Part of where my mind went is, I think I mentioned in one of the emails, I think I was kind of born analyzing things, and my field
Yeah.
is communication. So I have a book called Taking the War Out of Our Words, and I've analyzed language and how we use it. Um, and I've made 4 simple changes in our language, and it's the result is children are being able to ask one question of a bully and have them never bully. Literally, people have been able to use one question and stop even sexual harassment and things. So the way that we're using our language, I think, is really important. And what happened for me was the way that I applied it when Monza had her stroke was that she was in a rehab center where they were sending in different speech therapists. And so one speech therapist would work on fruits and vegetables, and one would, work on animals. When Monza was trying to think of animals the first time, it was quite interesting because she thought of cat, dog, and aardvark. And those were the only 3 she could think of. But what happened for me was I realized that when they were working with her on one type of category of word one time and then a different type the next time, by the time someone went back to the first type, she didn't remember it anymore. So that was one of the things that I did. But I'd like to tell this in just a little bit different order, because one of the things that was most profound for me was I had been working with Monza on her words, and I don't know why I picked colors first. But when she came home, what I did was I picked colors, and I first picked the color blue, and then I would pick up anything in the house or point to anything that was blue and say, what color is it? And if she couldn't say it, which at first was almost universal, I didn't do anything more other than just say it's blue. So she was hearing me say it's blue in a pretty relaxed way over and over. And so then we went from the colors to other things, including the glass of ice water. We both like ice water.
Right.
So it's like I would work with her on what was the glass, what was the water, what was the ice. But I think what helped was that there was no pressure for her to learn it. And I would just gently say the word if she didn't know it. So that was one thing that I think is really important for family members to, if you're going to help your loved one or friend or whoever it is, to be able to focus very specifically on certain words first, so that the person can begin to feel some success. But the thing that
I want to point something out, as I always do right at the moment, because Michael had brought this up and you brought this up as well, is no pressure. So when Michael was playing his games with his therapist, she was that Michael or Jim? I don't remember. But, right. So what they did was they got you to trust them first. They broke down all the barriers. You weren't there for you were there for education and to recover, but you broke down all those barriers. I always explain it like, it's an onion. And in my life, when I was combobulated, I was all consumed, and I needed people like Dominic Cordelessa to understand how to peel back layers from people. It took me a long time. I was really tight, so he peeled back those layers, and I formed a trust with him, and that is so important in the recovery process. Am I correct in my thought patterns? And then I'll let Judy talk. just Sharon, am I correct in my?
Yeah, yes. One of the other points I want to make addresses some of that issue too. I'll do that later, but
Yeah, well, I'll let Judy had something to say,
I
and then I'll
just
come back to you.
wanted Sharon to talk to the audience about how she helped after Monza's second stroke, where she didn't have balance, she couldn't walk, she was in a wheelchair.
Yes, I can talk about that also. Could I finish this one
Yeah,
first?
let's finish this, then
I
we'll
just
go to
wanted to
Jim,
add that.
and then we'll
Yes,
go to
please.
Jim, and then we'll come back.
Yes. So the thing that you were saying about what that means to be helping the person and helping them relax. One of the things that I think happens a lot, and this relates to the second issue, is that when someone is recovering and they're making progress, but they're not aware of it. And there's a tendency for people to start trying to convince. And so I want to tell you something that happened that was really profound for us. And that is that I had been working with Monza for quite a while, and we were driving down the road one day, and I would just point at things. I would say, "What's that? What's this? What's that white thing in the up there in the sky?" And and one day I said, we were driving by a piled rocks on a road we were driving, and I said, "What are those?" And Monza said, "Rocks." And I looked at her, and I'm going to actually read this because. And I said, "What are they called?" And she said, "Rocks." And I actually got tears in my eyes. And I said, "Do you remember when you couldn't name a rock? Now you can name hundreds of things and carry on whole conversations, sometimes with very little struggle." And she looked puzzled and said she didn't remember. I asked what she meant. And she said a sentence that had a profound impact on me, which was, "I don't remember what I didn't know."
Wow.
And that was so profound. And on her 1-year anniversary, I wrote her a letter, and I told this part of the story, and I told her about all of the progress she had made in her own words, so she could read it and say, "I learned this, I did this." And so and we read it over and over, so she could begin to internalize it. So I did that for the 1-year anniversary. And
so I want to tap in because
yeah, please. I came from a family that we all did this. So
no.
jump in anytime.
Because there are moments that you need to capture, and the fact that maybe many people don't do that with their loved ones. And we're just talking about strokes here because that's our world, strokes and aphasia. But when you have a heart attack or you're in an accident, or we had this wonderful Patty on our show that had an accident. But I mean, wouldn't it be marvelous if someone that loved you wrote you your acknowledgments so that you could see, and it brings you hope to keep striving to do better and to have check marks,
Yeah, we can share the letter with you if you like.
Yeah, yes. But I want Jim, could you put up her book, Taking the War Out of the Words? We have a photo of it. So let him show that before. Is it up, Jim? Okay. So I just wanted to show that, and then you could take it down, Jim. There we go. Then we could take it down. You could take it down just so we capture your beautiful moment. We actually are running out of time.
Okay.
I just want to, and I would like to invite you all back. We gotta have a few more minutes, but I just want to let everybody know we're running out of time, only because I have to go perform in a little bit. Because
what do you perform?
I'm a singer.
Oh.
And I actually did the opening song and the closing song. So yeah.
My gosh. Can we hear you on YouTube?
Yeah. Send you the link. Yeah. You can hear me all over the place. But so I want Sharon to finish your words, and then Judy, did you want to say something?
Just want to suggest to everybody that they read this book.
Yes, he's got that book too. He's got that. And then I want to go to Jim to give Jim the opportunity. But we have about 5 or a few more minutes, but I just wanted to give everybody opportunity.
Okay. So what ends up happening, I think, is that when people want to encourage the person that's had the stroke, they remind them of how the progress they're making. And what's not, I think, being identified or realized is that when that person gets resistant because they can't remember, they don't see it, they're not experiencing it, then they often kind of get a little bit resistant, like, well, no, or, and so then people start convincing, which is a huge piece of my work in communication. The minute we start to convince anybody of anything, the part of the brain that is complex problem solving will shut down, and it goes straight to the amygdala, which is fight or flight. So the effort to convince out of love can cause conflict. And so when that person is saying, no, I mean, I can't do this, I can't do that, what are you talking about? If people can remember, they don't remember. And so if you approach it differently and say, do you remember that you used to not be able to say this and you can say it now? Or would you like me to remind you sometimes of the things you don't remember so you can feel better about the progress you're making? But to stay away from the convincing. And then the last one, and the first one was about really focusing in a narrow way on certain words in the beginning. But the last one is really crucial too, because you can make these other pathways in your brain. And when you can't find a word you want and you keep trying, many times Monza would just go, or I need the, can I, and so, and it was repetitive, and she resisted stopping doing it. And so what I worked with her on, and also her wonderful speech therapist, but it occurred to me that she was getting bad pathways going here. And so what I did was I said, I want you to stop the minute you say that, and instead think of any other word that can help me know what room is it in, what color is it, the person. And then I have made a list that I have that of all the different categories, and she had that, I had it laminated so she could pick that up and look at it. And it took, when you get away from the struggle to find the word and find any other word, then all of a sudden it helps language to come back easier.
I think what I capture from what you're saying is Dominic Cortellessa, who was, a mentor for mine. He would repeat something, like he'd always end it with the positive note. And his positive note was, we'll come back to that tomorrow. We'll come back to that tomorrow. So he gave me the open-ended insurance that I needed to do the work and he'll come back tomorrow. We'll talk about it some more tomorrow. It wasn't like, well, you don't know, or, it was always open-ended. So I love how I'm writing a book, Sharon. It's called Love Them Through It. And that is what we need to do. And I actually am putting out to everybody to write a little blurb, their story of how they were loved through it. So I would love to have your input into my book, and Judy as well. So I'll send you a copy. So Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about our sports and how we navigated through that, how that empowered us, and the practices and the work ethics and the dedication and the passion and our fierce, intense love for the game helped us to recover.
Yeah, my sport of choice now is golf. It's always been a sport that I've loved. I started playing with my brother-in-laws. I play golf regularly with my wife, my beautiful, loving wife of 38 years, who's my caregiver and my right-hand person.
Wow.
I was fortunate because the first time I met my physical therapist, he asked me, what are the 3 things that you want to be able to do again? And I shared, I want to get back out on the golf course with my buddies. I want to be able to hold my grandchildren, pick them up and walk them around and play with them. My physical therapist created a customized rehabilitation for me that helped me focus on getting back to doing the things that I wanted to do the most. I'm now back playing 2 18-hole rounds of golf per week. I'm actually going out today to play golf with my wife and my son, which I'm very excited about. And golf is a wonderful sport because if you look at what par is 72. I'm shooting in the mid 80s again, fairly consistently. And because golf is gamified, I can look at my progress level based on my score.
Wow. Yes.
So that's one of the things that really is motivating me to continue to push forward. I think, Renee, the thing about sports that's been wonderful for us in our recovery, I was able to reconnect with that tenacity that you have to have in order to be a champion.
Yeah.
So what I found was my mind quickly took me back to all of the physical work that was going to be required to be a champion in a sport. And now I wanted to be a stroke champion.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be one of the biggest physical and mental challenges of my life. And that in order for me to walk again, to be able to swing a golf club again, was going to be the hardest work I'd ever put in my life. It's not easy. And people in the medical profession that tell us we're only going to get as good as it gets after 2 or 3 months, or they don't offer hope and encouragement, to me, that's like malpractice. That's just not right. And
they have no idea that each person is so unique. They just, and I'm not talking bad about the doctors, I'm just talking about, like, it's a doctor is taking the information that they have in front of them and analyzing it. They don't know you as a person, you know.
The thing is, my physical therapist said the relationship between the healthcare provider and the patient has to be symbiotic. You know, there's something that the medical community can learn from all of us if they take the time to build a relationship with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to learn a great deal about what it takes to motivate people who are recovering from aphasia and a stroke.
Yeah.
You know, we're all doing it, and they're going to learn from our caregivers, but they have to be in a position where they're willing to listen and be part of the process.
Yeah.
Sport helped me reconnect with the inner champion in me.
Yeah, and Jim, they should. Your work. Do you go by Renee or ReneMarie?
Renee. I'm ReneMarie is my professional name, but I go by Renee.
But what you're doing should be, Jim, what you're saying is her show here. I mean, for me, and I'm sure Monza, you guys are fantastic, and this is inspirational, and this should be training. Your videos of your shows should be training for the medical profession.
Right. And the truth is, we've had a number of medical professionals on who are phenomenal, who are opening. And I got to say, Dr. Beculus is the best at never saying no and always listening. That's an important tool, right? No matter what you do in your life, you have to be a listener, because it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or a teacher or you're a nurse or whatever you're doing. You have to be open to listen, to hear what is needed to there. I would love to invite you all back and to continue this conversation, because we have so much more that we really need to tap into, and I don't want it to fall. So I hope that all of you will just connect with Judy, or Judy will connect with you, and we could do this, continue this exact program and where we've left off, because we've had really, really, really important moments. This show is really captured in the moments. Jim?
I just wanted to say my physical therapist, Mike Studer, is world renowned. He has TED Talks. You should listen to him. They're fantastic.
You can invite him on the show. We would love to have him.
Jim, I want to jot this down now. Mike
Studer, Studer.
Studer. And where is he located?
He's located in Salem, Oregon. I can get you his contact information.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because it's really important.
One of the things he said to me that resonated and was so important in my recovery is if you demand it of your brain can supply it.
Yeah. But I think that's so true. But that's how I talk about, you have to get from this point, the trauma point, to understanding and demand. So there has to be that bridge so that your therapist helps you to navigate over that bridge.
He
So
did. And
yes.
he knew when I bent down to put that tee in the ground and put that golf ball on it.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I was going to have was keeping my balance when I tried to swing.
Yeah, yeah, I hear.
Here's what's amazing. Golfers always talk about muscle memory. The first time I stood over the golf ball, keep in mind I'm playing with only one eye. I'm blind in my right eye. The first time I took the club back, it was amazing. It was like my body knew exactly what to do with the club again.
Wow.
And so there again, if you demand it of the brain, your brain can supply it.
Yep, yep, yep. So Monza, you wanted to say something?
I want you to all know about my therapist because I think she's just extraordinary also. She's in Bend and she actually works in Redmond now, but her name is Brittany Skrupke.
Sorry, Brittany?
Yeah, she's fantastic.
I can't hear. How do you spell the last name?
SKRUPSKY.
Okay, I've got SKRUPSKI.
Sharon, could you share that with us, Monza? Sharon, could you email that to us so that we could have that information, so we can have that contact information?
Yes, and one of the other people, if someone has physical issues, is Dwight. Dwight, do you remember Dwight's last name, Monza? He's unbelievable. He's had athletes come from all over the world, and he does. I'm going to forget the word now. He does the work where he works on one part of your body and it fixes another part of your body. What do you call it?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll send it to you.
We'll send it to us, and we're going to continue this conversation.
He's in Bend. But
yeah,
we'll
I mean, this is an ongoing. That's why it's so important for us to keep talking, communicating, and we're all coming together for the same purpose, and that's to bring hope to everybody, you know, that suffer the stroke and to prevent strokes as well. We have to roll out of here. Jim, could you really quick, can you put up the Stay Life to Yes to Life photo on the screen before we go? Yes. So we really, before, I would just want Jim to put that up there and then pull it down, and then we're going to fly out of here. Is it up, Jim? It's up. Okay. It's up, everybody. You'll hear.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Yes, yes, yes. You'll see on the screen, Jim, you could take it down. Everybody go buy that book. It's a wonderful book by Sharon's book as well. What's the name of it, Sharon? I don't have it in front of me.
It's called Taking the War Out of Our Words, and the subtitle is The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication.
Wow, it's perfect. It's perfect. And so we're not saying goodbye because this show is going to continue. We're going to come together once again so we can continue this. This is the core of who we are and what we're trying to do, as well as with Michael with the insurance, which is a whole different baby, a whole different program that Michael's going to be involved with and Yanel. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much to the entire panel for being our guests. You were all wonderful. We always blow kisses at the end of the show. So we blow kisses on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
God bless you all.
Thank you all. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Yo no sé lo que haré. ti, no me puedo